In December of 2023, I set my heart on competing at Holiday Matsuri's Winter Cosplay Championship. If you've never heard of it, the Winter Cosplay Championship isn't just any cosplay contest. They host the most international qualifiers out of any convention in the US. And if you win one of the qualifiers, Holiday Matsuri covers your flight and hotel so that you can represent the USA at a final cosplay contest event overseas. They have 3 different qualifiers. NCC, which is for solo cosplayers with a final in Sweden. ECG, which is for anything from solos to quartets with the finals in France. And finally, GCOF, a performance-focused contest for duos with the finals in South Korea. And I knew exactly what I wanted to cosplay from: Little Goody Two Shoes, a new RPG game that blends fairy tale with horror elements. I'm obsessed with this game, I love it dearly, and I thought these elements had great skip potential, along with adorable character designs that were just detailed enough to be competitive. It's about a poor village girl named Elise who goes into the woods to make a deal with the devil. I instantly started thinking about classic Brother Grimm's fairy tales and any fables with devils in them, and Hans Christian Andersen's The Red Shoes, because Elise, the main character, also has red shoes. As I continued to brainstorm and research classic fairy tales, I got to work on my Freya cosplay. With all that embroidery on the apron, I knew it was going to be my most detailed and difficult cosplay yet. Typically, when you compete in contests, you have the best chance if you show either a wide variety of skills or have complex techniques. And sewing simple garments with clean stitching like Freya has often isn't enough. So I thought about how I could up the difficulty of this cosplay a little bit, and I thought dyeing my own materials for the embroidery would be a great way to learn and incorporate a new skill. I learned how to acid dye with some help from Lutavia Cosplay, who is a dyeing master, and it was actually surprisingly easy. Dyeing my own silk ribbon also saved me a ton of money just because it's so much cheaper to buy your own dye and blank ribbon. So shout out to Dharma Trading for their super affordable materials. If you do want to do some own dyeing yourself, definitely check them out. With the ribbon all dyed, I could finally get started on the most time-consuming but important part of the costume, the embroidery. And while I embroidered, I continued to brainstorm about the performance. Despite all the 1700s, 1800s fairy tales I kept reading, I actually kept coming back to the Greek legend of Orpheus. If you haven't heard it before, it's about a man who travels down to the underworld to rescue his deceased wife. He tries to convince Hades to let her back to the world of the living, and Hades does agree, but on one condition. Orpheus may not look back at his wife until they reach the surface. He's almost at the exit, but at the very last moment, he turns around and he sees that his love was indeed behind him and that it was not a trick. But since he failed, she returns to the underworld, and you can probably see why it's one of the best Greek tragedies that has been written. And it's even been adapted into a Broadway musical called Hadestown. Now, without me spoiling too much of Little Goody Two Shoes, which you should absolutely go play, by the way, at one point in the game, Elise ventures into an evil enchanted wood with her friend to make a deal with the devil. Their journey into these spooky woods kept reminding me of Orpheus's journey into the underworld. And I kind of thought, the story of Orpheus could honestly work for these two characters. What if Elise gets tricked into trading Freya's soul with the devil? Then they could somehow convince the devil to give them a chance to get Freya back, and he could give them the same test as Orpheus. I wasn't quite sure yet if it should have a happy or a sad ending, but since I had actually seen them play Hadestown, I knew this had a lot of potential to look very dramatic on stage. I got some friends to help me with refining the script. With only 2 minutes and 30 seconds, it would be paramount to keep the intro and the story setup as short as possible so that there would be enough time for the dramatic journey out of the forest to build up suspense. When you're writing a script, you generally want to keep the exposition as short as possible, but you also don't want to rush it too much, otherwise the audience might be confused by what's happening. Another thing to keep in mind for international cosplay contests is that they often have a background video screen behind you while you perform. You can use this to help set the scene and visually enhance the performance, and I think the best performances consider how to use the screen carefully. While I was doing all of that research of Grimm's fairy tales, I came across Lotte Reinige's films on YouTube. Though she isn't very famous, Lotte was a pioneer of animation, and she made hers with shadow puppets. I saw her animation of Hansel and Gretel and was blown away. And hey, Elise and Freya get in the lost just like Hansel and Gretel do, So I thought this style would be perfect for the background video and look super cool on stage and even a little spooky, which was perfect. I made some vectors in Inkscape and recorded our work in progress script with my poor voice acting to create a simple proof of concept. Proof of concepts are really important because it gives you a chance to test out your performance before getting too far along in the process and investing too much time into it. I sent this proof of concept to a few people, and my friends agreed that it was looking promising, so I kept chugging along on refining the script, the visuals, picking music, and making more shadow puppets. I finally finished up the embroidery, and everything with the performance and costume prep was going pretty smoothly. Until less than 4 months before holiday Matsuri, my skip partner found out that they could no longer make it to the convention. But they encouraged me to try to find another partner or come up with a solo performance of my own so that I could still compete. I racked my brain for over a week on what I could possibly do solo, and even though I'm usually pretty good with coming up with performance ideas, I could not think of anything. So I thought about who could possibly make an Elise cosplay in just over 3 months. Then I rang up a friend who I thought might be up for the task.
Hello, Bird King.
Hello.
Are you busy during Christmas?
I don't think so.
So I'm asking because my original hall map partner can no longer make it, and you're like the only person I could think of who could possibly make this costume in like 3 months. Because it's just like a red dress with a floofy skirt, and you've made that kind of outfit a million times.
I do like a good ruffle, and I would be absolutely honored to cosplay with the page
Oh
novice
my
who is
gosh.
so good at performance stuff. Oh boy.
Oh boy. Okay, well I'll send you like the audio and the script that I have, and yeah, you can check it over and check with like your family Christmas plans first.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you.
Yay!
With that crisis averted, I focused on finishing up my costume and getting the stage props ready. I think one of the big things that separates local contests from the international is the stage props. We wanted to be really thoughtful with ours, and I wanted our set design to match the shadow puppet silhouettes of the background video. Bird King is an amazing artist, so I asked them for help on the set design, and they drew this up. 2 grass bush silhouettes and a treeway arch to make it feel like we were really in the woods, with the arch doubling up as a place for me to hide when the devil takes my soul. I was trying to figure out a way to make all of these set pieces as portable as possible, since I would be flying all the way from California to Florida, and I found this really weird material at Home Depot. It's called asphalt saturated felt, and it's already black, it rolls up, and it's also quite stiff, so it stands up on its own really well. I did a little test and it worked perfectly. The only downside to this material is that it smells horrible and was super difficult, almost impossible to cut with scissors. I also used gloves to handle it since it had a Prop 65 warning of chemicals known to use cancer. Then I added some PVC pipe frames for the bushes to keep them a little more sturdy, and I attached the trees to a collapsible archway I bought off Amazon. And now that the con has happened, I can confirm that they worked perfectly, super portable and easy to set up. Meanwhile, Bird King and I continued to struggle if we wanted a happy or sad ending for our story. We really wanted Orpheus to have a happy ending for once. We thought it would actually kind of subvert the audience expectations of yet another retelling ending in tragedy. But the problem with the happy ending was that it was honestly kind of boring. We needed that dramatic moment where she turns around to really have that good, impactful climax. We were so torn that I called in my friend Elephant Bird, an amazing cosplayer and theater buff, for help. Her idea was that the way we could have both is if Elise turned around, but somehow something blocked her eyes. And that was it. In the video game, it is filled with these creepy butterflies. And when Elise turns around, she could startle all the butterflies in the woods, causing them to fly away, but one could happen to land on Elise's nose, covering her eyes completely, so that when she turns around, she doesn't see Freya. But we didn't want that to come out of left field, so following the story principle of Chekhov's gun, that meant we needed butterflies to be present in the rest of the skit. So Bird King started making a bunch of colorful and creepy paper butterflies to add to our set, and I added some butterflies to the shadow puppet video. I think it was at this moment that we finally felt like we were cooking. And Bird King had another great idea. Freya could wear a veil during the journey out of the woods to show she's enchanted by a spell. Bird King got this idea from the Giselle Ballet, but we decided to swap it from white to gold because in Little Goody Two Shoes, there are all of these golden maiden spirits that Elise encounters during the story. We had the whole skit figured out. But we still weren't even technically accepted into Holiday Matsuri's contest yet. Holiday Matsuri uses what is called a juried system, so you have to apply before you are even allowed to get on stage to compete. The application process is pretty simple, but still nerve-wracking. A couple of months before the con, they ask for things like your contact email, cosplay name and pronouns, obviously what cosplays you even want to enter into the contest. They also ask for previous cosplay examples, a description of your performance, and photos of your current cosplay progress. They want to make sure they accept people who will finish their cosplays. Now, your costumes don't need to be finished when you apply, but many juried contests heavily consider cosplay completion. The crown, for example, requires, I think, 80 to 90% completion when you apply. And because Bird King joined the group so late, they honestly did not have a lot of Elise done yet. But we had to submit the application before the end of October, so to make up for the lack of costume progress, I submitted more materials of our performance, like our almost final video and photos of the props. We hoped that this would show that we had a lot of good progress in other areas, but we still weren't super sure if we would get in. But a few weeks later, and I saw an email in my inbox, we made it in. It was actually happening. We made the final touches to our audio, video, and costumes, and with that, it was time to head to Florida. This year, Holiday Matsuri held all of the craftsmanship prejudging on Thursday before the con even began. Prejudging is when the judges look up close at your cosplays and you tell them about how you constructed the cosplays and all of the nice little craftsmanship details. Our prejudging was Thursday morning, so we got dressed, grabbed our build book, and headed over. Immediately after we were done, we pretty much went straight back to the hotel to finally block our skit. Bird King lives in New York and I live in California, so we still hadn't really practiced together yet. We did a few Discord calls over the past couple months to at least discuss our plan for stage movements and have a basic idea of the blocking, but we knew that once we got together, we would need to change a lot. I think we actually spent literally the rest of the entire Thursday on the staging, and Bird King, again, tapping into some of their ballet knowledge and training to choreograph some pas de bourrées in time to the music. We tested all these different formations because we wanted to make sure we used the entire stage. And my mom actually came to Holiday Matsuri with us, so she was a trooper for watching us practice for hours and giving us immediate feedback. Thursday went by fast, and we still didn't feel totally ready. We practiced a little bit Friday morning, but we had to go and head to the con to set up our stage props since we didn't know how long that would take. We ran into our good friends Chikupi and Maki in the green room who helped us set up. The green room is basically a backstage storage space. Everyone had their props in there. It was super cool to see. The staff had also taped out a practice stage area that was the actual dimensions of the stage, so both Chikupi and I squeezed in a couple more practices for each other. Friday, we headed to bed early because the big day was tomorrow, with an optional stage rehearsal in the morning. Because the con had other programming and concerts scheduled for the stage on Friday, we had our stage rehearsals the same day as the contest. It was first come, first serve, and we got there right at 8 a.m. when it started, but we were still like the 15th group to get there. But they had a full 3-hour block for practices, so we weren't worried about not getting our practice in. And even if a con does make dress rehearsal optional, I really recommend you always take the chance to do the stage rehearsal because you'll feel way more comfortable later when you actually perform for real. There ended up being a bit of a hiccup during the actual practice time. They didn't have everyone's audio downloaded yet, so they started pulling people out of order. So we ended up not having to wait at all, but it happened so quickly that we were really unprepared to go on stage and they kind of rushed us to get our props set up. And because we were so rushed, a lot ended up going wrong in rehearsal. But we did figure out what we needed to change and move around for the actual performance that night, so we tried not to let the messy rehearsal throw us off too much. But with that, we headed back to the hotel room to grab a big, healthy lunch and get dressed, and it was finally time for the contest. I didn't bring my phone backstage, so I wasn't able to film it, but as I sat there next to Bird King, I felt the calmest I had ever felt before going on stage. After almost not being able to come to Whole Mat at all, I was honestly so happy just to be there backstage at Holiday Matsuri right then. No matter win or lose, I had achieved my dream and my goal of competing at Holiday Matsuri. And most of all, I just felt so incredibly thankful to Bird King and my original partner and all of my friends who helped me along this journey, because without them, I feel like I never would have made it on stage. And then finally, it was time to perform.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Elise who sought fortunes beyond her game. So she made a deal with the devil.
I will grant you wealth beyond measure. All I require is a gift. With your dearest friend in hand, come deep into my forest and leave an offering of bread and wine.
But those gifts were a deception.
That's just a taste of it, but if you want to watch the full performance, I did upload it to my YouTube channel already. And hearing the audience reactions, the gasps, the cheers, we felt amazing as we stepped off the stage and back into the audience to watch the rest of the performances. We left the contest feeling exhausted, but also so inspired by the amazing performances and cosplayers we saw. We would have to wait till Sunday to know the results, but you know what? That night, as we left, we already felt like winners. That was the most fun we had ever had on stage. Of course, that didn't mean we were going to skip the awards ceremony on Sunday. We did want to celebrate who won, plus all of the craftsmanship only entries would be doing their walk-ons on Sunday, and we had to go cheer on our friends. I really love that they split up the show into 2 days. Maybe not everybody likes it, but I would much rather attend 2 separate 3-hour events than one single 6-hour-long show. That is exhausting for cosplayers. As the awards started to be announced, I started to get a little nervous. I held Bird King's hand, and we didn't see every performance, but we hoped that we at least still had a chance. And then they announced the GCOF representative.
Okay, for our Team USA for GCOF 2025, we have number 6, Bird King and Novice Cosplay.
The Naruto run! Amazing! I love you guys. They were absolutely wonderful. They knocked it out of the park with their performance. I felt something. If you saw that yesterday and you didn't feel something, check your pulse. It was beautiful work.
And we Naruto ran up onto that stage, still in disbelief. Honestly, even now, as I record this, I still don't think it's fully sunk in. But as someone who's really been trying to encourage more people to try out cosplay performance, and as someone who's really dove into the performing side of cosplay myself, I just feel so honored to be able to represent the United States, my country, in an international performance cosplay contest. So I just want to thank the judges for trusting Bird King and I to be a part of Team USA 2025, along with Chikupi and Cottonmouth Cosplay. But I also want to thank Holiday Matsuri's incredible staff for organizing such a fantastic contest, and thank my fellow competitors for being so kind and uplifting for each other. Please go watch the full show. There were so many amazing performances. Pins and Snips uploaded the full thing to their YouTube, which I'll link below. But also, if you've thought about competing at Holiday Matsuri, absolutely go do it. You will have so much fun and feel so inspired from the show. And if you've never done a performance before, please take this video as a sign to go try out your first one, even if you end up competing at a different con than Holiday Matsuri for your first performance. Well, I've talked enough. I hope this video gave you some insight into both my performance creation process, as well as a good overview of what to expect if you compete at Holiday Matsuri. If you want to see more stuff like this, then subscribe and let me know that you like this style of video. Thank you for watching. Bye!